Hello there, YouTube crew. I'm the real Dill, and today we're going to be ranking Mission Impossible Fallout. It has simultaneously the most personal stakes since the third movie, and the highest stakes since the fourth movie. And in doing this, it also is the only of the movies up to that point, I think Dead Reckoning does this, it saves the biggest and best set piece for last, which I think in large part helps to make this the best movie of the franchise. Directorial style, tone. It so perfectly mixes what could just be a pure action escalation spectacle piece with what is another great character examination piece. The action set pieces never wash away the heart and care that's in here, and the dream sequences are a new and perfect choice to fold in a psychological edge. Gotta give 4 points. Mood. The opening dream sequence even behaves in a similar way to the flash forward in 3. It immediately sets the stakes in a way truly grounded in character and conflict. Really grips the audience early on and prepares them for what will come later. And there's no doubt Fallout is the most successful film in the franchise in engaging the audience. I really don't know a single soul that would place this outside of the top two slots, so 4 points. Score. While I still believe that the third movie has the best instances of scoring, this movie has the best overall score. Like, there's no wonder why Chris McQuarrie kept on Lorne Balfe for the next movie. And I gotta say, I love the inclusion of piano and drums in the score, plus 4 points. Title sequence.
What's done is done, when we say it's done.
There's a gorgeous flame motif eating away at the characters. It's the most thematically driven since 2's, and without the flaw that 2 and 3 of course have. And obviously there is excellent momentum going through this. Then the closing titles include the fuse in every shot like in Rogue Nation. And I've got to say I quite enjoyed the dossier aesthetic. Plus 6 points. Cinematography. It does have lens flares like JJ's Mission 3. It also has a similar affinity for darkness, but not with the noir tinge that 1 and 5 has. See, like 3, it's shadowing this haunting fear of loss that's looming over Ethan. And the use of IMAX finally outdoes the Burj Khalifa climbing sequence. Simply incredible filmmaking. Plus 4 points. Character. Ethan Hunt. Because the audience has so much experience with Ethan, the exploration of what makes him tick at his core, especially by way of other characters examining him, it just works leaps and bounds better than the second movie. And it offers such a great resolution of both his caring nature and gambling compulsion. Take it away for me, Hunley.
Some flaw deep in your core being simply won't allow you to choose between one life and millions. You see that as a sign of weakness. To me, that's your greatest strength.
Plus 4 points. Team. 4, 5, and now 6 have such a strong run in utilizing the team members to their max, even if this one's primarily just Benji and Luther. I mean, yes, Ilsa and Walker do swap into and out of the team here, but I've got to harp on this one problem that still nags me. I miss Brant. However, I don't think his absence is a true negative in this movie, especially since Hunley fills out his role and does get his own moment in the limelight as a team member. Plus 4 points. Could have been 5. Boss. Although Hunley has become a true believer in Ethan, his power and influence has limits. But he still puts his life on the line for country and Ethan while keeping the mission first. Rest in peace. The new CIA director Sloan inserts herself into this mission, taking control out from under Hunley. She kind of repeats Hunley's arc from Rogue Nation, which is fine despite being repetitive. I will, however, knock this down from a 5 to a 4.5. Antagonist. Solomon Lane, the first returning villain to this franchise, and he's now more of a fanatic, hell-bent to restructure the world the only way he sees possible after his failure in Rogue Nation. He's also kind of devoted to vengeance against Ethan for this setback. And the guy literally haunts Ethan's dreams. August Walker is a CIA plumber placed onto Hunt's team to kill him if he goes rogue.
It's the job. No hard feelings.
He also happens to be the extremist behind the John Lark persona that's teamed up with a remnant of the Syndicate to create peace by way of a great suffering.
The greater the suffering, the greater the peace.
All of this allows him to perfectly set the blame for his own actions onto Ethan. He's the most complete mirror to Hunt, more so than Ambrose and more so than Hendrix. And it's also just great to have dual villains in the franchise, not merely a villain and main henchman, and they work so well together. Additionally, Sean Harris gets to give his take on Benji and then nearly kill Benji, plus another 6 points. Neutral characters. The White Widow is a dangerous broker who doesn't allow Ethan all of the fun. Her brother is also a tryhard, which, is kind of fun. And they're the children of Max in the first movie. Super cool. So of course that means they're secretly in league with the American government. Ilsa Faust enters the scene with a bang, but is otherwise keeping things close to the chest.
I don't understand what I'm involved in. What am I involved in?
She has to prove loyalty to MI6 by killing Solomon Lane, which unfortunately sets her at odds with Ethan. And that unspoken thing between them only grows richer as the story unfolds. Still the best addition to the franchise. Julia and her husband are also dragged into the conflict. It's honestly so good to get full closure between her and Ethan. And Wes Bentley's performance is so interesting too. He realizes something is off about Ethan, that Ethan fills some hole in his wife's past, and yet has neither anxiety nor jealousy about this. Truly a man of faith and trust. Plus 5.5 points. Conflict. How impossible is the impossible mission? Remnants of the Syndicate have teamed up with the mysterious and dangerous John Lark, and they've acquired 3 plutonium cores. In response to losing them, Ethan and co. are saddled with August Walker, a CIA agent whose job is to keep them in check. After a small hiccup, Ethan is forced to assume Lark's identity without a mask, just like in Ghost Protocol, but this act makes Lane's plan to frame him all the more credible. And apparently everyone seems to want to kill Lark, because he is set to break out Lane. Now Hunt must play the role of mass murderer and hope Lane doesn't immediately throw him under the bus. But this exchange has been a sting to draw out a leak, much like the Mole Hunt had won, with the White Widows setting them up to the CIA. Hunley appears to shut them down, but the IM force pushes forward to draw out the real Lark and get control of the remaining 2 cores. But even after achieving some of this, the CIA dragnet falls upon them and does not end well. Now the team has to figure out how to disarm the complex bombs under an incredibly short time, with a third of the world's population, their own lives, and even Julia's in the balance. I would dock points for the opening loss feeling a bit out of character, with the team not even attempting to give chase. Could have simply had the Apostles blow the tunnel exits to justify this, but everything else is just so highly done, so 4 points. Stunts. Tom Cruise broke his ankle on this jump, which halted production, and they used this as an opportunity to market the film. Absolute madmen. Over 100 actual Halo jumps were done in the preparation and filming of this sequence. There's so much to dive into the mechanics of how they got this thing done, but there's just not enough time. I've got to highlight this maneuver here with the BMW. Ethan learned how to maneuver around elevators after the loss of Emilio. Rest in peace. Emilio! Not only did Tom fall down mid-flight onto the payload for real, with only one cable to prevent him from dropping any further, but he then goes on to operate the chopper, as well as the cameras that are recording him as he's performing as the character. 5 points, dude. Set pieces. A storm prompts Ethan to abort, but Walker pushes forward only to be struck by lightning, so now Ethan has to save him and release both parachutes before they're squashed. All of this is shot for real up in the air, except Paris beneath them is composited in later. This then leads into the best fistfight in the series. The first round goes quite quickly, although not so smooth. Then we get some singing to really amp us up for round 2, where Ethan Hunt and August Walker put up an admirable fight, sure, but they're just simply outmatched. And Ilsa has to break her directive to save Ethan. Then Ethan calls an audible on Lane's extraction, which becomes a motorcycle chase that actually goes through the Arc de Triomphe. Eat your heart out, John Wick 4. They then switch into a car, great BMW by the way, and Ilsa steps in to be their pursuer from there on. The next big set piece is this underground Mexican standoff where alliances aren't exactly solid. This leads into a full-on foot chase where Hunt has to outrun the Apostles apostles to catch up to the nonchalant Walker. We get even grander profile tracking shots than we got in 3. But like in 4, he's just too late. And finally, there's the nuclear showdown. As said at the start, this is the first movie in the franchise that saves its best set piece for last with clear, steadily rising personal and global stakes. The cross-cutting between Ethan getting to the detonator by way of the wrong helicopter, with Luther and Julia disarming Bomb 1, while Benji and Ilsa find Bomb 2 that's guarded by Lane, could provoke jealousy in Christopher Nolan, who is known for his cross-cutting climaxes. Plus 5 points. Ticking clocks. Ethan chooses to shoot Luther in the vest rather than run away, but this allows the loss of the plutonium, kicking off the main conflict. When Walker gets KO'd, Ethan has a limited time to swap over his oxygen tank, release Walker's parachute, allow for separation, and then release his own. Good thing the man has luck on his side. He then has limited time to prevent a massacre on French police, and achieves this by jumping the initial hit time, forcing the team to switch to their alternate extraction point and placing them a bit behind Walker and therefore in the pathway of this beat cop who almost gets executed when she attempts to stop them. Ethan has to gun down 4 men to protect her life, which finally garners a bit of respect from Walker, but probably since it overlaps into his worldview. Now they've got 90 seconds to remove Lane's tracker before the police surround them. Finally, the team can only disarm both bombs after the countdown starts and once the key is removed from the detonator, only allotting them 15 minutes. And there is so much that is woven into this framework. It's simply incredible. Best ticking clock in the franchise, and that's including the one in theaters right now, plus 4 points. Interpersonal conflicts. Luther doesn't want Ethan to choose him over the bombs, but Ethan's choice to do so later prompts Luther to tell Ilsa about Julia in an effort to convince her to not go on the suicide mission with them. She, of course, has to go. This capitalizes on the tension between her and Ethan since they didn't pursue each other after the last movie. And their different objectives in this movie place them in opposition for a while. And as that's going on, Walker does not approve of IMF's methods. Hunley and the team argue amongst themselves. Some of it is performative, but it's full of issues that aren't completely worked out yet.
I'm working on it.
Oh, he's working on it.
Oh, and Sloane later chooses to not trust anyone. August and Lane have their own issues with each other since it seems Lane, at least in part, has co-opted the plan to force in his own revenge against Hunt, which gives some reasoned plot armor to Ethan for a bit. My favorite, though, is when Ethan runs into Julia, but cannot be 100% with her since her new husband is also there. It's a wire act of veiled communication and tension that is so dynamic and so interesting, plus 4 points. Story. Narrative. Ethan is shackled to a lethal babysitter after losing plutonium, but this guy just so happens to be the one they're really after. Their opposing ideology is so strongly pit against each other. Walker is an atheistic, utilitarian extremist, while Hunt, on the other hand, holds up the lives of individuals just as highly as the whole. Remember now, this guy reads his Bible. The lives of Ethan's team, Ilsa and Julia, are all placed in peril along with a bulk of the world so that Lane can teach him a lesson. But fortune favors the bold, and while the villains are bold, Ethan is bolder, and his ideology overcomes.
I am the storm.
Plus 4 points. Character progression. Luther and Benji are exactly who they need to be. Ilsa and Ethan are fleshing out their will they, won't they. Lane and Ethan are becoming more intimately connected.
Shut up.
I hope he has at least one more great return. Plus 3 points. Romance. Ethan and Ilsa are the best pairing of the franchise. There's so much longing between them, but the duty of being spies keeps them apart, but can also never be enough to truly turn them against one another. And then we get not just a reminder of Julia, but the woman herself. The effect and turmoil they both cause within Ethan is just good cinema. Plus 4 points. Twists and turns. Just as Ethan successfully bluffs a deal with a madman, the apostles take Luther, box the team in, and steal the plutonium. In Paris, Ethan has to push forward without a Lark mask, following a whoopsie.
I need a face to make a mask.
And doing so prior to realizing just how many folk want Lark dead. Then it's revealed that Lark is meant to break out Solomon Lane, which makes this maskless approach all the more dangerous.
We'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
And Walker incriminates Hunt to his boss in a way that incriminates himself to the audience. The team gets control of the situation with their own brand of controlled chaos before pulling a performance art showcase on Walker to dupe a confession out of the guy.
People actually fall for this shit.
They think that this will clear them, but the CIA is intent on bringing everybody in despite the plutonium still being out there. But of course, not everyone in the CIA is loyal to the CIA. Hunley then bites the bullet, or, well, knife, and not only is it revealed that Walker knows about Julia, but the ending stage from the outset of the movie was set up by him and Lane to place her life in ground zero, with Ethan there to witness. Plus 4 points. Resolution. Like 3, this movie includes a flash forward, only this time at the end. It wraps up Sloane's arc and ties up the White Widow loose end. But it's really about the closure with Julia and the team getting a chance to finally breathe and get a little laugh, but not too much. Plus 4 points. Mythos. The Legend of Ethan Hunt. Ghost Protocol fused together the disparate versions of the prior Ethan Hunts into one believable entity. And Fallout, of course, doubles down on everything about him. Plus, it's cool to see that Ethan gets to use his hobby in his job again. Plus 4 points. Spy gear. The mission brief gets projected from a book. A beryllium rod is used to verify the plutonium. There's a remote-controlled car. Benji finally gets to wear a mask. Actually, twice. ID tag trackers that look like iPhones. There's a sleeping agent, of course. A heads-up display to guide their halo jump. A pristine, busted mask maker. A nicotine patch-looking signal jammer. Tracker, extractor, / implanter. You know, the average stuff, plus 3 points. Locations and infiltrations. We get to see Ethan chill at a safe house in Belfast. And the first mission, like in 3, takes place in Berlin, and the team also fails like in 3. And even more similar to 3, this is followed up by Ethan being reprimanded, although this time at the Ramstein Air Base where Hammer meets Scalpel. They then go to Paris, ultimately to extract Lane, before going to London where they lose Lane and Walker, only to find the two in the geographically complex Kashmir for a truly impossible race against the clock. Plus 4 points. Disavowed. Ethan's history of rogue behavior shackles the team with Walker.
Was the little car your idea?
Ilsa's work during Rogue Nation similarly enslaves her as well as puts her onto Sloane's bad list. We also get a fake going rogue sequence as well as a real one for the climax.
We're gonna have to go it alone.
Plus, of course, 4 points. Fake outs. Immediately after the plutonium goes missing, we see news of their connected use and terrorist plots before Luther has to step in and hold Ethan back like he did in the Davian interrogation in 3. Except this time, it's just a ruse to get the dude to spill the beans. It has got to be the best fake out in the entire franchise. We get this dreamy vision of Ethan realizing exactly what he'd have to do to pull off the planned extraction and maintain his cover. And the unloaded gun gag is so great. It's so great.
Oh, and you were doing so well up until then.
And finally, there's this trolling overexposure shot that makes you think, even just for a split second, that the bombs might have went off. When including Walker's confession, that makes up 3 of the top 5 best fake outs in the franchise. So of course, 5 points. And that puts Fallout at 7 points ahead of Rogue Nation's total number, right? And that's before I get to the bonus, which is that we got Mustache Gate out of this movie. And that brings us to a total of 112 points. This is clearly the objectively best Mission Impossible movie a Mission Impossible movie can be. How does the movie stack up for you? Let me know in the comments below. I'm The Real Deal. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.